Thunder's left town to make way for the Big 12 basketball tournaments. Oklahoma City leaves as a hot team. Will it be one when it returns? From the Dodge Sports Desk, I'm Mike Sherman, and this is the NBA and OKC with Mike Baldwin. Mike, the Thunder opens a 3-game road trip Tuesday night in Sacramento. The Thunder's won 4 out of 5. The Kings have the worst record in the league, 14-49, and they blew up their lineup at the trade deadline. What's the status of this franchise right now?
Well, they're the team that looks like the leading candidate to be the #1 pick in the draft, just because they played so poorly and they did blow up their roster. So as a result, I mean, they haven't done well the last 2 months. I think they're something like 4-20 the last 24 games, and so they're a team in decline. They may not even get enough wins to catch the Thunder where they are already with 3 or 4 games ahead of them. That's why this game to me is a little pivotal, that if the Thunder continues its recent good defense and gets a win Tuesday night in Sacramento, I don't see any way that they could fall down to Sacramento, and there's no way Oklahoma City's going to go 0-19 either. So all these thoughts of them having the worst record and the best chance, 25% of the lottery ball, I think are all but gone anyway. This would maybe just be the final link in there to sense that if they win Tuesday night. If they lose, it would make it maybe a little more interesting, but Sacramento's going the other way, losing a lot of games. Meanwhile, without Kevin Durant, the Thunder's won 4 out of 5.
Okay, Mike, you were in Sacramento on Super Bowl Sunday in an overtime game. Russell Westbrook had a great game.
Well, all 3 of them combined for 90-some points. Durant, Green, and Westbrook. I can't remember. It was an overtime game, but it's like 94 points, those 3 guys, and it wasn't enough. And that's been the difference here lately. They're playing a lot better defense. 94 has been enough to win. That day, it wasn't even close. They lost in overtime. I think it's like 120-118.
The Thunder's defense is going to have to be strong on the perimeter. Francisco Garcia and Kevin Martin, their 2 sharpshooters, are coming off a big game against Denver. They won at home against Denver, a team the Thunder is going to see on Wednesday night. Is that the way you see it, stopping those 2 players being the key for Oklahoma City?
Oh, without question, Kevin Martin had the big game that day they lost. And then I think Salmon's had a decent game, who's no longer there. And so how they do defensively, and that's been the most impressive thing about the Thunder, is the defense has been a lot better, allowing only 84 points in those 4 wins.
Okay, let's talk one more thing about the Kings. Let's assume the Kings go on and finish with the league's worst record, 25% chance of winning the draft lottery. Is this a team that you could see the Oklahoma City Thunder talking to about rights to Blake Griffin after the draft? The Thunder has 2 this year, #1 picks, 2 next year, including the Suns. Would the Kings, as they're currently constituted, be interested in something like that?
Well, a team like that that's trying to shed cap space, they're one of the 15 that definitely got the loan to help them. Some teams are using the loan just to sort of like pay off a previous mortgage type of thing. Not everybody is in dire straits financially. The Kings are. They're one of those that they shed salary because the arena's half empty, they're not selling tickets. And so they would be, to me, them and the Clippers are 2 of the candidates to have the #1 pick, because remember, it goes from like 25% to almost 20%. Clippers have Kaman, Camby, some big men. They really wouldn't need Blake Griffin. They may be willing to, trade for 2 or 3 picks to get younger, help them on the cap space. So those are the 2 teams. The Wizards, who knows if they ended up with the #1 pick, because they have a little bit of an inside game, but they could use Griffin as well. The Clippers, to me, match up the best as far as maybe giving them a lot, because they've already got big men and go, well, we're only going to fall 4 or 5 spots, 3 or 4 spots, how many ever it is. The Kings and Clippers would be the 2 that I think, but we're not going to know till June. That's what's going to make this interesting. We're going to talk about it. Everybody's going to analyze it. Presti's going to hold his cards close to the vest. Then all of a sudden, draft day, I think it's June 25th, rolls around, and then that's the day everything can get crazy.
Okay, Mike, then next up for the Thunder, 3 straight games against teams in the playoff hunt, though it might be a stretch to call the Phoenix Suns that right now. First up, Denver. Denver comes on Wednesday. Are the Nuggets a challenger to make the Western Conference Finals still?
I didn't like him as a challenger from the get-go. Even though they were playing well, and Chauncey Billups and all those guys, we saw the 2 games here when Melo beat Oklahoma City. They're a solid ball club, but I mean, I could tell when I wrote it on the Sunday NBA page a week ago the way Utah was playing. I said, don't be surprised if Utah doesn't pass them and win the division. They've already caught them in like 10 days. I thought it may take the rest of the season. I don't see them holding on to the division lead. I see them possibly losing home court advantage. They will definitely make the playoffs. They had that hot start the first 3 months will help them, but I mean, they may even finish 3rd in that division. The Nuggets, things aren't going well right now. They're a good team, but no way they make the Western Conference Finals.
Carmelo Anthony suspended for 1 game last week for not coming out of the game when the coach subbed for him. Last week, his first game back, They sent a sub to the scores table for him. The buzzer rang. Carmelo ran off the court. So maybe that's settled down, but you don't like the looks of them right now. Here's another team that people don't like the looks of right now, Mike, the Suns. Phoenix has fallen 4 games out of the 8th spot in the Western Conference playoff race. Have the Suns finally set?
I think they're in big trouble. A week or so ago, after seeing Dallas twice, I thought maybe Dallas would be the team that falls out. But then you start analyzing the schedule a little closer. The Suns were getting ready to go on that rough road trip, have not won a game on that road trip. They've lost like 4 or 5 in a row. I think the hole's going to be too deep for them. But these are the kind of games they'll really want. They got to beat the teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's why this road trip, Sacramento's the only one I think Oklahoma City has a realistic shot. Denver and Phoenix at home, they really need these games to try to make a run to the playoffs. And despite all the success the Thunder's had, remember, a lot of it's come at home, 13 home wins. They've only got 4 on the road. They're like 4-26 on the road. To me, that's the next step for this team, is try to win a few more road games. Then you've really got a building block for next year. Not only did they improve X number of games, that last 50 we talked about, right now they're 14-17 going into those last 50. They're close to a 500 team. You can tell they're gaining confidence. They're learning some of the things that will carry over to next year. The one thing they have not done is win a lot of really close games and win on the road.
And that loss at Phoenix, the last time they were out at Phoenix, right before the All-Star break, it goes into the batch of the worst 5 losses of the year.
Well, they just started running, remember, under the new coach, and everybody said, well, they played the Clippers twice. Who cares? Let's see what they do against Oklahoma City and everybody else. Well, Oklahoma City was next, and they did the same old, scored a cajillion points. Brooks the other night after the win, somebody asked him about Phoenix. He goes, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's going to be the interesting part on this defense. Even if you hold a Phoenix to like 105 or 110, you might have a chance to win those games. It's not always just about the number 84 or 88 that they've been holding teams, but I think it was 140, wasn't it? It was a lot of points they gave up, so we'll see some progress there. And then when they come back home after the Big 12's in town, and look who's in town, the team they model themselves after, the San Antonio Spurs, who are playing really well. And that, to me, Utah and San Antonio are the 2 teams that have the best shot at maybe making a run at the Lakers. Well, guess what? 2 of the 3 home games next week are San Antonio and Utah. You're going to see 2 of the better teams in the Western Conference, 2 of the teams hungry to get that 2 seed to make a run at the Lakers. So they're on this road trip. The Big 12 tournament's in town, but when they get back home, 2 of the 3 are against 2 teams that are really starting to catch fire and 2 teams that really want to think about finals.
How about the Spurs, Mike? Is it all come down to Manu Ginobili's ankle for this team in getting to the Western Conference Finals?
It may be, because, I mean, they definitely are an aging team, but they have that cycle. Remember, odd number of years they win titles. It's 03, 05, 07. Well, guess what we're in? 09. And early on, everybody didn't like them because they had the injuries. They struggled a little bit. But ever since then, I mean, they've played pretty good basketball, and they've even had some marquee wins against some of the other top contenders. So they're one of those old veterans. They're not out until you knock them out. And I still like the Lakers the best, even if Bynum doesn't come back. But I think San Antonio and Utah are the 2 equipped to maybe make a run at the Lakers. So I think the fans will get a good look at just 2 of the better teams in the Western Conference when the Thunder comes back home.
Last 2 questions, Mike. When will we see Kevin Durant?
The early prognosis is it looks like Saturday. I mean, there's an outside chance he'll play one of these next 2 games, Tuesday or Wednesday, but they're being very careful, and you don't blame them. You don't want sometimes these high ankle sprains, severely grade 2 as they called it. If you're not careful, it'll nag and nag and nag on you. He's obviously gotten better. In pregame, you can see him out there. He's running, jumping a little bit, but he hadn't gone full speed in 2 weeks now almost, running. And that's what you do in a basketball game. So it's one thing to go out there and say, Coach, I'm ready. I'm shooting jumpers. Look at me now. If I had to guess, I would guess Saturday against Phoenix. Jeff Green maybe plays in one of these next 2 games because his back's okay. I think he wanted to play Sunday. They wouldn't tell us, but they told him no. So at worst case scenario, I think he'll be back Saturday, but it'll be interesting to see when he comes back as well.
You took my last question. We'll end on that. Thanks for watching. You can stay with the best coverage team anywhere, every day at News OK, and every morning in the Oklahoman.